Hey, how's it going? So, where's my co-leader at? Funny thing. Well, we sent him to Guatemala to recruit more Saints, so he's gonna be out there for a while. But what about me? Well, that's a one-man job. He don't need me out there. Besides, there are other Saints here that I need to keep an eye on. So, I'll hold down the fort while he's away. So, what else do you guys know? Well, I've been dropping hints or just straight up stating that I'm a huge fan of a certain blue hedgehog. So, I want to talk about Sonic Mania. So why is Sonic Mania? Well, Frontiers came out at the time of this recording, but before it came out, Sonic Mania is my favorite game in the franchise. The question is if it still is. Look, I need to play Frontiers a little more, but that is quite a claim for me considering I grew up more with the adventure style and like the boost gameplay way more out of all the styles in this franchise. So why is Sonic Mania my favorite? Well, let's jump into it. Alright, I should explain my history with the franchise first. Sonic the Hedgehog. I've been playing these games since I was 5 years old, and I haven't looked back. If you guys know me, you know that I love Sonic. It's the franchise I love the most. And while I can see how divisive this franchise can be, it's gone through a lot of changes. We went from 2D side-scrolling to 3D adventure action, and to a boost hybrid of the two. There are also a lot more gameplay styles this franchise has seen, and while my favorite is the boost style, all the different gameplay mechanics have a degree of fun to them. Some more than others, but by the end of the day I can say positive and negative things about all of the games. It doesn't stop me from enjoying the games. But that's my take on the franchise. Look, I started with 06, which is a bad place to start, to say the least, but then I moved to Secret Rings, another debatable starting point, but then moved to others. Played Colors, Generations, Adventure 1 and 2, played Sonic CD, Sonic 2, and by this point, I've been in most of them, or I've played all major Sonic games. I think I have played enough to still definitely say, I love this franchise. And so with my history, I didn't start playing the classic games, I started in the more modern era. So why is this one my favorite, considering it's the style I have spent the least amount of time with? Well, let's talk about it. Let's start with the story, because that's a trend on this channel. Let's keep it going. Angel Island fell back into the ocean. As Sonic and Tails return to Angel Island, they find Egg Robos digging up a gem called the Phantom Ruby. As they dig it up, the Phantom Ruby warps them back to Green Hill Zone. Why? And the Egg Robos turn into the hard-boiled heavies. After Green Hill Zone, they argue with Eggman, fight for the Ruby, and you warp to Chemical Plant Zone. Bro, what the fuck is this? After that, you go through all the zones, reach Eggman, defeat him and Heavy King, and get transported into a portal where Classic Sonic goes to Sonic Force. We just, like, not have nice things? And that's it. Hey, the story may be simple, but this game doesn't need a complicated story. It's your classic Sonic goes to stop Eggman from taking over. That's all you really need with classic Sonic. I don't need a super intense story or a cartoony story. Just something simple like this is great. However, if you look deep into the lore, you may see some stuff, like Eggman having the money to own a studio and printing press. How the hell does he get this money? Well, my man owns Oil Ocean Zone and Chemical Plant. And he's got a mining operations. At least that's what I got from implications. You might get stuff like that, but the story mainly sets up the game, and what they do with the game is what excels. Christian Whitehead, Headcanon, and Pagoda West Studios, I love these guys. They basically said we need to focus on the gameplay, and that's exactly what they did. In most platformers, you go and clear the stage. Sounds simple enough, but here's what makes Sonic stand out from the rest of the crowd. Sonic is fast. That's what makes him stand out. Sonic is faster than your average platformer. So what can Sonic and his friends do? Well, everyone has a spin dash and the jump. That's the base foundation for everyone, but every character brings something different to the table. Tails can fly in stages, reaching higher areas much easier. Knuckles can glide and climb walls, and break certain walls that Sonic and Tails normally can't. Now what about Sonic? Seems like he's just the base model, but thanks to Mania, we now have the drop dash. I love this new move. It helps keeps the speed going. When jumping in the air, you can hold the jump button again, and Sonic will instantly do a spin dash essentially. It lets you keep going faster, adding the speed nature to Sonic's moveset. Speaking of which, speed is so important, that means that the level design should follow suit. That's one of the major reasons I love Sonic Mania. It's the level design. The level design for the game is amazing. Constantly you're gonna have sections that let you go at fast speeds. You're gonna have to slow it down and do your platforming every now and then, but the game also rewards a more explorative style. Find the hidden special stage rings and warp to a special stage. Find hidden TV monitors to get one of the many power-ups the boys can use throughout the game. Invincibility rings, speed up shoes, fuse are one of the many elemental shields, which also adds different effects to Sonic. The fire shield lets you do the fire dash, the bubble shield lets you bounce to reach higher areas, the thunder shield lets you do a double jump. While only Sonic gets those abilities, the others can still have the protections of the shields. The fire shield protects you from fire, the bubble shield lets you breathe underwater, and the thunder shield protects you from electricity. But not just that, the developers added secondary effects for the elemental shields this time. The fire shield can now burn bridges, or light the oil in Oil Ocean on fire. The bubble shield can now protect you from the blue goo and chemical plant, and the lightning shield can now give you anti-gravity and flying battery and help you skip certain sections in Titanic Monarch. This is your gameplay that you can do, but I said the boys can do this. But thanks to Sonic Mania Plus, we got two other playable characters, Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo. Holy shit, they brought these guys back. These two had together a total of 2 games in this franchise, yet the developers thought it would be cool to bring them back. Mighty is essentially your easy Sonic mode. Tails can be considered easy mode because of his ability to fly and swim underwater, but Mighty says fuck everything that hurts you. His hard armadillo hide protects him from spikes and enemies while playing the game. Mighty also has a drop attack, letting you get to new areas in encore mode and stop on a dime if needed. Now what about Ray? Well, he grabs the mechanics of Mario World's cape feather and says speed. Like, imagine Ray got the cape feather and snorted a line of coke, because that lets you go so much faster than the cape feather. And it's a little dangerous, but you can curl into a ball and back into action. You have essentially 5 different playstyles that play close to the foundation to make it simple to pick up every character. Knuckles is kind of the only exception, just for the fact his jump is shorter than the others. You can kind of consider Knuckles the hard mode of the game. That's actually why Knuckles has some areas exclusive to him, and one stage designed specifically for him. Speaking of design, let's talk about the level design in Sonic Mania. Just mwah, amazing. The level design for Sonic Mania is great. You have platforming sections, you got your speed sections, and each level has multiple different pathways to get to the goal. You got the bottom path, which typically is the safest to stay on, but it typically has the least rewards for you. From what I've noticed, it could also take the longest to get through the stage depending on the level. While the bottom path may have less goodies or routes, you may still find a special stage ring or items down below. In Sonic Mania, it's actually not that bad going down, but the upper path typically has all the goodies. Going back to the power-ups and special stage rings, don't get me wrong, you're still gonna find goodies on the bottom path, but the top path, while harder to stay on, feels more rewarding because of the speed you can reach. The game design finds a way to not only let you go at your own pace, but also rewards you for keeping the speed. Certain sections, you can get creative and find ways to skip certain areas, or once you discover a new route, you can avoid a route you may not have liked. That's the key design of this game. You can go fast and blitz through everything, or take your time and explore. There's so many branching pathways that you can do that, even though most of the stages are reused levels from previous games. Thanks, Sega. The level design is so revamped that it feels so much better. Let's just take Flying Battery Zone. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Flying Battery had these sections where you had to go slow, wait for the elevators to get you to the next part of the section. But in Sonic Mania, they say that section sucks, delete it. Same with the missiles to reveal the next path. In 3 and K, it takes a while for that path to be revealed. In Sonic Mania, boom! One barrage of missiles, that's it. That's how Sonic Mania uses the reused levels. They grab what works and leave what didn't. For Sonic fans, I like to think of it like this. Act 1 is the introduction to the stage, very similar to the original games. If you're a Sonic fan, you may recognize some of these level designs. They take certain level designs directly from those games, so you're gonna probably recognize them. But they still throw in its own gimmicks and new designs to spice things up a bit. But then you get to Act 2, and the developers basically say, "Gotcha, bitch!" And the levels get so redesigned and remixed that the only thing similar is the aesthetic, but even then it looks new. Chemical Plant has more inside the factory part of the zone. Green Hill introduces the cave sections from Sonic Generations, and the giant totem poles from Sonic 4. Oil Ocean Act 2 literally sets everything on fire. It's those small touches that make the levels feel totally remixed versions, making it hard to see the levels as one-to-one the originals. You could argue that only happens for levels from Sonic 1 and 2, but even the stages from CD do not feel the same. Stardust Speedway's design is more 3 and K inspired than CD. CD had more vertical design than horizontal. In Sonic Mania, all stages are designed with both aspects in mind, horizontal and vertical pathways, or vertical and horizontal level design. So what about the 3 and K levels? Well, yeah, they are the ones that can feel closer to the originals than the other zones, but like the Flying Battery I mentioned, they took what works and left what didn't. Lava Reef now has more mining design gimmicks like I mentioned earlier, and also shows you what the top of the zone looks like. Volcanoes everywhere. Hydro City has these kayaks that let you skip water sections and the bubble mechanic from the Game Gear games. And is one of the only water levels in Sonic that lets you keep the speed going. These old levels are so beautifully remastered and overhauled that you have to admit they are not just lifted from the original games. They actually redesigned these levels. But you notice I said old levels. That means they brought in brand new stages. So what are those brand new stages like?
No.
Oh my gosh, these brand new stages are so good. Oh my gosh, Studiopolis, Press Garden, Mirage Saloon are just, oh my gosh. These stages are the best in the game. It does make it to the point where you wish the game was nothing but new stages and, Sega, what is wrong with you? A brand new game of just these new stages would have been amazing. The developers clearly showed they know how to develop the levels for Sonic, and these new stages have the best aesthetic and level design throughout the game. It's the stages I enjoy playing the most. It sucks that Mirage Saloon Act 1 is just Sky Chase Zone with a small segment of a train. If they were gonna do that, why not make the level be on the whole train? That would have been so cool. But this is the zone where Knuckles does get his own personal level. That's the level design of Sonic Mania, and what helps distinguish that whole idea of remix to overhauled is the music. T-Lopes, this man has made one of the best soundtracks in a Sonic game. His Act 1s from Sonic 1 and 2 feel more like reimagined versions of the original songs, but have that T-Lope signature to them. But Act 2 are the overhauls, where T lets all of his creativity come out into those remixes. Even Sonic CD and 3 and K level remixes are so good. My favorite being Lava Reef Act 2, that guitar, man, and Stardust Speedway Act 2. These are really good. But the new zones music, like,
No.
I'm done, dude. That joke's over. I'm not nutting on this monitor computer anymore.
What did he say?
This music is just amazing. Every song is so good that even Stardust Speedway Act 2 can be used for any romantic moments you guys want to do. These songs are just beautiful. Mind you, music is subjective, but you can't deny T-Lopes' musical genius. Mind you, this is just the regular version of Sonic Mania. What about the Encore mode? Cause that was something they added almost a year later. Well, thanks to Encore mode, we do get Mighty and Ray. Without it, you ain't playing with these two. But you get to also play the Encore mode. You go through a slight reimagined versions of all the levels, and with redesigned aesthetics, Green Hill is now in Sunset, Stardust Speedway is now the bad future for Act 2, and Mirage Saloon is now at dusk. Like, it's not just those stages, every act gets new aesthetics, but not just that, you go from playing as Sonic and Tails as the only team up, to any two characters teaming up, Sonic and Ray, Tails and Mighty, Knuckles and Knuckles. Oh wait, oh my bad, that's the N Knuckles mode. An extra mode in the base game. But let's jump back to Encore mode real quick. You can play as all 5 characters at once, but you can only use 2 at a time, but can switch between said 2 at any moment. With the monitors though, you can get one that switches the character you are with the next character in line, or the random monitor that switches you with a random chance of any character. The game mode also has no lives, so continues now play a more vital role in this game. Another difference is the special stages, which I didn't talk about from the base game. The special stages in the base game are really fun, but the Encore special stages, oof, they are definitely much harder. They are still fun, but the design of the special stages ask a little more from you. The base ones are really fun and have certain moments where the design rewards going a certain path, but the Encore mode essentially says these are a continuation of the base ones, so step it up because you're gonna fight for those emeralds. But with practice, you will be able to clear them easily. Encore mode isn't the only extra brought in with the DLC though. You have the new bonus stage to let you get power-ups, extra lives, and rings along the journey. It doesn't just appear in Encore mode. When you get all the medals in the Blue Sphere, you will be able to enjoy those in the regular stages. Speaking of Blue Sphere, Sonic Mania did bring those special stages or bonus stages back. In the original games, when you have enough rings and jump into the stars above a checkpoint, you will be teleported into the Blue Sphere's bonus stages. You get medals for completing them, silver for just beating the stages, and gold for getting perfects in the stages. After you unlock medals, you unlock more modes for the game. Extra Blue Spheres that I think were designed for Mania specifically. You have the Mean Bean Puyo Puyo mode that you can play with friends. Speaking of friends, you have competition mode that puts you and friends against each other across the acts. It's a nice little distraction. And lastly, you also have the time attack mode, which you can play in the Encore core or base game aesthetics of the zones. Not just that, but if you mess up your run and want to restart, just hold the Y, X, or triangle button and boom, you restart at the start right away. The extra content this game has add more fuel to your playtime of the game. Same with the ability to use the super peel out or insta shield in the game or the debug mode. It is nice little additions that if you decide can make the playthrough feel different or just make you say, that was neat. These are all the things the game has to offer. The reused levels really make me ask though, why the hell Sega forced the developers to use old levels? And especially with Sonic 4, Generations, Lost World, Runners, Forces, and now Frontiers also reusing levels. I am so tired of these old levels, man. Not just that, but this game has design that casual players are probably gonna struggle with. As badass as my co-leader is, he couldn't beat Sonic Mania due to game overs, which makes sense. The levels, especially in a first playthrough, are really long. Some stages can easily take you more than the 10-minute time limit allow. However, they did patch the game to be able to turn it off, but if you have the time limit, you're gonna fail reaching the end before those 10 minutes are up. The bosses can also be tricky for certain players. The Studiopolis boss has weird slope physics during the fight. The Ocean Act 2 boss can kick your ass on a first playthrough, and the game's natural sense of speed can be hard for first time players. Would I recommend Sonic Mania as a first Sonic game? I could, since it is really fun, but I also have to acknowledge this has level design and mechanics that may push away first time players. Even remembering my first time playing Sonic 1, I couldn't get past Marble Zone Act 3. Now I can beat the game easily, but those first playthroughs of a classic Sonic game will differ for everyone. If you are a player that can eventually, with time, beat a game even if it may be hard, then yes, Sonic Mania is a good place to start. But it's also a game that may take you some time to get used to. Again, while Sonic is known for his speed, if players are not used to it, they might struggle. It's why my co-leader hates this game. Well, he at least acts like he hates it. He has told me it's not a bad game, but clearly the timeouts and game overs, forcing him to start at the beginning of a zone, made him not want to finish the game. He got as far as Mirage Saloon before he said, I'm done. Then we sent him to Guatemala to go get more sense, but hey, he will finish it one day. He better. This is, I think, gameplay wise, one of Sonic Mania's biggest flaws, that the design can be alienating to first time players. But if we look at non-first time players, more experienced players, they're going to love this game. They have the best level design and control for these characters. There are also so many Easter eggs and references to other games. You can see the love and passion these developers put into the game. But even 5 years later, and with Frontiers, Forces, Lost World, Mania, Generations, all using the same levels of Chemical Plant and Green Hill Zone, I am sick of overusing these levels. I love these levels in Mania, but I'm getting too tired of seeing Green Hill Zone. But that is my main complaint of this game, because I keep playing this game, I keep finding new pathways, I keep discovering new hidden goodies or new tricks I have never seen before, to the point I can beat this game in less than an hour and a half. Sonic Mania is a passion project that a company published, made by professionals who love this franchise, and that alone elevates the game so much. And with everything working so well together, this is why I love Sonic Mania. This game showed me what passion can do when you develop a project, and while not a perfect game, no game is, I can say this is my favorite game because of the love and ideas that work for this game. It is consistent throughout the entire game. So if you're interested in buying this game, it does go on sale quite often. Sega's actually really nice about putting their games on sale. So if you want to save money, wait for a sale. But if you want the game that a Sonic fan who typically prefers the more modern stuff but still loves the classic games too, then just get Sonic Mania already. It is fun, it is amazing. Just remember, you gotta go fast if you want to get used to that speed and beat this awesome game. So yeah, that about sums it up for my thoughts on Sonic Mania. Look, I think the game is absolutely amazing. The developers clearly put love and passion into that project. It is amazing and so worth the price. It just might not be for casual players mainly, but Frontiers is out. If it wasn't obvious enough, Frontiers is out. But before I tackle Frontiers, there's one more game I want to talk about. One more thing I want to discuss before we jump into Frontiers. It's a game from my childhood, just like Sonic, but this one wasn't able to stick around like Sonic was. Sonic has kept going. This one has kind of been silent, but we can jump into that the next video. So you guys have a good one and take care.